All right, so people loved yesterday where we had the Take Your Kid to Work Day podcast open. So we thought the only thing that we could do that would be better was to sit down again with Cha-Cha here in the new studio. So thank you for being with us, Cha-Cha. What's going on at home? Tell me about how Anna treats you when the cameras aren't rolling. Yeah, that's what I thought. How did you feel when, after being a lifelong Republican, Anna started supporting President Biden? I see. Anna sometimes calls you a bitch. How does that make you feel? All right, it is Thursday, June 25th. Cha-Cha is here. Anna Navarro is here. Welcome, Anna.
And this is our last podcast for 10 days, right?
Yes, it's the last podcast for a break. So for those who don't know, and usually all panic sets in, despite the fact we take off the same week every year, going into we'll have a new show tomorrow. And then next week, The View is on break. And we will be off and then back after the July 4th weekend. So I know people get very upset when we're not on the air. And generally speaking, massive news happens every time we're on vacation.
All the time. Well, but you know what, though? Under Trump, massive news happens every single day.
No, 100%.
But, on my podcast, I bank episodes. So I've been doing some evergreen episodes for when I am going to be away.
Oh, look at that. So you're throwing shade at me for not doing evergreen episodes?
Yeah, I feel like you're a little lazy.
Yeah, I've got a pretty packed day generally. We don't have a lot of time to bank episodes. We'll finally show all the Whoopi episodes I've been banking that she's recorded secretly for us.
Well, also for you, I think the evergreen thing, doing evergreen shows on The View is increasingly difficult.
Nobody cares. People want to see us live or very close to live. And
right.
They want to know.
They want to see us reacting to the things that are going on a daily basis in this crazy news cycle that we are living.
Absolutely. So that's why we got to keep talking about what's happening in the world, and we're going to do that right now. So you weren't on the show yesterday when we were talking about these primaries in New York, especially how the Mamdani backed candidates won the House in New York. Basically, they're calling him a kingmaker. And the question is, what does this mean, if anything, for the Democratic Party, the direction of it, or is this a New York thing? There was a big dispute at the panel. A lot of people felt like this was going to be a gift to Republicans. A lot of people thought this is the change people have been asking for. So where are you on this?
Well, frankly, it would have been a gift to Republicans if Donald Trump and Republicans had been able to focus on the fact that all of these Democratic Socialist candidates got elected instead of having to justify and explain away the fact that the President of the United States had arranged for a press event to sign a housing bill and backed out of it at the last minute because he threw a tantrum like a spoiled 3-year-old. So I think that stole the whole news cycle that they could have exploited in trying to make these Democratic Socialists seem scary, et cetera. I think this Mamdani thing is complex and multi-layered, and I think people are trying to make it more simple than it is. First, it showed me that Mamdani is not content and satisfied just being mayor of New York, taking care of the streets and the snowstorms and the potholes and all of those things. Definitely, this man is an ideologue. He deeply believes in the values and beliefs he holds, and he wants to bend the Democratic Party and get more people elected that are of the same ilk as he is, and he is doing so. Also, I will say that, again, it shows just how effective Mamdani and his team are when it comes to social media, when it comes to bringing out voters to running campaigns. So, because, a lot of times in politics, you'll get a press release or somebody will send out a tweet and say, I just endorsed so-and-so, or I am endorsing so-and-so, and that'll be the end of the endorsement. Mamdani was on the streets of New York campaigning with these candidates. He was doing events. He was raising money for them. And even more than that, his team was working for them, running their campaigns, being on the ground and helping in the strategy of the campaign. So a Mamdani endorsement isn't just on paper. It's, he pounds the streets. I was very surprised by the 2 Latino incumbents that got taken out. Actually, one was not an incumbent, it was her proxy. So there were 3 big races, right? And also, listen, this is Mamdani getting involved in federal races. congressional races.
Right.
These are, so he's basically saying, I have no boundaries. I am powerful and I am going to flex my muscle. And I think a lot of times, people look at Mamdani and what you see is his charming smile, his disarming personality.
He's an excellent politician.
But he's an excellent politician, strategist, and tactician. And he has no qualms about using the power that he has, and he knows that he is in a honeymoon period, and he will use that. So there were three races. One was the Goldman race, where he was the incumbent, and that one was entirely, I would tell you, most of that race hinged around support from AIPAC and support for Israel. And truly, the guy who won, I think his name is Landner, is very well known in the district. But the ones that really did shock me were the two Latino Congress people. One was Nydia Velázquez, Puerto Rican. She's been in Congress for 34 years. Incredibly well liked. If she had stayed in Congress, she could probably have stayed in Congress till she was buried, beyond dead, buried. She could have been running until she was 100 years old, and she would have been kept being reelected. She supported somebody. She endorsed somebody that was close to her, and Mamdani endorsed somebody else. And by the way, Nydia Velázquez was the first member of the New York congressional delegation that endorsed Mamdani. When a bunch of other people were not endorsing him, she did. She was the first one. And that endorsement bought her no loyalty. No, hands off Nydia Velázquez from Mamdani. So I think that teaches you something about him. And then on the other one that really did shock me, so Nydia Velázquez was not on the ballot, her proxy was. He got beaten by like 20 plus points. Adriano Espaillat, first Dominican elected to Congress from Washington Heights, where there's a lot of Dominicans. He was at some point came here as an undocumented immigrant. So he's like the first undocumented immigrant that, then became a citizen and got elected to Congress. Chair of the Latino caucus of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus in Congress. Very well liked. And a guy who is very well known in his district. So these are not, like, you remember when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won, everybody was shocked.
Absolutely shocked.
Okay, but the guy she was running against was barely in his district and had, forgotten how to pound the pavement and how to knock on constituents' doors. Adriano Espaillat, the guy the incumbent who was beaten this week, is a guy who was very visible, very connected, very well liked. But the other thing, that people don't seem to mention when we talk about this entire thing is, first, I think this is very New York centric. Definitely this could not be happening in Florida, where I live, or in a lot of other states. But also 5% of the eligible voters went out and voted, which is why I always tell you it's one of the reasons why being a member of a party instead of an independent and being able to vote in primaries matters.
Yeah.
Because it was just, a few votes. It was just a few thousand votes that made the difference. So I think, I guess that's kind of my assessment of the whole thing.
I guess my question is your gut that this does mean something, that the Democratic Party, this is the future? Or do you think this means in New York, Mamdani's charismatic and he got a bunch of people to the polls?
I do not think it is the future. I think definitely there's a lot of discontent in the Democratic Party base by what they see as Democratic establishment not fighting back enough. But I don't think the type of candidates who won in New York City this week could win practically anywhere else. And also, at the same time that we are talking about the future of the Democratic Party, remember that there's been a bunch of moderate Democrats who've also just been recently elected. People like the new governor of New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill, people like the new governor of Virginia. They come from the very moderate bent. I will tell you, the person I think needs to wake up and smell the gravlax is Chuck Schumer. Because I think this makes it more likely, not less, what happened in New York, that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will challenge him in a Democratic primary for the New York U.S. Senate. I don't discount Chuck Schumer. I think he is a very able politician, but I do think there is a generational thing going on as well,
And
where a lot of
frustrations.
the base wants to see younger people with more of a confrontational fight in them, and I think Chuck Schumer better cancel everything and do nothing but campaign for the next year and a
And
half.
talk about good politicians. AOC also has a handle on social media, has a handle on raising a crowd when she
Right.
goes somewhere to speak. I mean, she's compelling and charismatic. So,
And
yeah.
they're, I mean, a lot of these younger, more progressive candidates. That's the other thing, by the way. Both of these Latinos that he took out, Nydia Velasquez, her proxy, and Adriano Espaillat, these guys are not moderate, middle of the
No.
road, right leaning Democrats. They are left leaning Democrats. They have been very vocal on issues affecting the Latino community. I think the people that they've been replaced with, particularly Espaillat, are to the left of mainstream Democrats and certainly mainstream Americans on issues like deportations, like abolishing ICE, like things like that. So it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, the lesson here is no matter how warmly he smiles and how much his eyes twinkle, do not turn your back on Mamdani. Do not sleep on Mamdani because he is ruthless.
Well, the whole value of loyalty in politics, it's been a conversation we've had a lot. We've seen on the right, loyalty to Trump doesn't get you very far. It gets you to a certain point, but if he needs to move against you, you're done. And we've seen that, with people like Cornyn and people like that have supported him. Well, not enough. Here you go. And then on the other side, we talked a lot about how for Kamala, her loyalty to Biden might have been the death knell in her campaign. So
Right.
it's an interesting question. And, you really, what is it worth to the voter?
And it's very interesting because it's so much of New York politics too.
Yes.
When you realize that if Democrats retake the House, the Speaker of the House is probably from New York, Hakeem Jeffries. If Democrats retake the Senate, the majority leader is probably from New York, Chuck Schumer, so at the same time that you could possibly have the two most powerful Democrat establishment figures be leading one or two of the houses in Congress, you have this young whippersnapper rising star. He's not even a rising star. I would tell you he is an established star, Mamdani, and they don't see eye to eye.
On very
They don't,
much, no.
they're not from the same part of the Democratic Party, but it also feels like there is a lot more diversity of thought within the Democratic Party right now than there is within the Republican Party. In the Republican Party, in the Republican Party, there is one issue: loyalty to Trump. And if you don't show it 100%, he will come after you and he will knock you out in primaries. But I just, to me, Mamdani, it's not even about loyalty to him because, as I just explained, Nydia Velasquez was the first one to endorse him out of the congressional delegation. Adriano Espaillat endorsed him immediately after he won the primary. So Mamdani is more loyal to his ideology and his principles than he is to any political.
I'm just saying it seems like, and
payback.
we've talked about Pelosi and Biden too. It feels like loyalty's for suckers these days. Like it doesn't exist in politics anymore.
That was so interesting. So when I don't know if I told you this, so if I did, if I'm repeating myself, remind me. So when I interviewed Jill Biden in Miami for her book, in one of the sections she talks about. Yeah, we did talk about this, about being at Tatiana Schlossberg's
I can't remember if we
funeral.
did it. Oh, yes, we did on the show. You're right.
And
I'm sorry.
And she just, I mean, Biden let go of the Pelosi grudge, but Jill Biden did not.
Yeah, I get it. My wife's yet to let go of any grudge. All right. The other big thing we had last week was the epic opening of the Obama Presidential Center. Your friend, Mark Anthony, very high in the Anna Navarro Celebrity Friend Power Rankings. He performed. Did you watch?
I did. I watched. And it was so much fun to watch and to see, the Clintons, the Bidens, the Bushes, and the Obamas. They're together. To see Malia and Sasha, who we first met as little girls.
Yeah.
I met them actually. I met Michelle, Malia, and Sasha when Barack Obama was a senator and he came to Miami. This was before he was running for president. This was when he came to promote his book, Dream of My Fathers, or whatever that was, that first book he wrote. And they were tiny little girls. So to see them there, as women, I loved it when Michelle Obama took a dig at Donald Trump by reminding people that her husband had won a Nobel Peace Prize. But so, as I've said before, what Obama did, because Valerie Jarrett, who's running the foundation and who's, basically Obama's right hand, is a friend of mine. And what Obama did was basically take his Spotify list, his playlist, and said, these are my favorite songs. These are my favorite artists. This is what I want them. These are the people I want to come and play.
Amazing.
And they all showed up. So like Mark Anthony told me. So when I saw Mark, I felt a lot of pride because he was the one Latino artist that was invited. And you could see Obama knew the song and was dancing along. I mean, it was just kind of wonderful. And Mark was just so happy. So I called Mark more than anything to thank him for representing. So I was in my way to the airport in a car. He was in his tour bus on his way back to Miami. And he was elated. He wasn't, he was just on such a sugar high from having done that. But he told me that they had told him they wanted him to sing one of two songs. Either I Need to Know, I need to know.
I actually know that one, yes.
Right, which is in English, or Vivir mi vida. Vivir mi vida, la, 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 la. And he said, and of course, I chose to sing in Spanish.
Yeah.
This was my, shot. This was the one Spanish song. That was the one song I was going to, the one Spanish artist. And the one song I was going to sing was going to be in Spanish. And, and that was in Obama's playlist.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
The first time I met Obama, I think it might be the only time I met Obama. I've probably told this story before, but I was producing at David Letterman and I was producing LeBron James, who had, I think, probably won a title or something, but he was on and we had to ask him to go second because we had booked Senator then, Barack Obama. And LeBron said, as long as I can meet him, that's fine, because they'd never met before. So I introduced for the first time LeBron James to Barack Obama.
Okay, that's a flex.
That was a pretty good one, yeah. I'm sure neither of them remember that part. But I said, Senator Barack Obama, meet LeBron James. And that was pretty cool.
And I mean, it's pretty cool because Barack Obama is such a basketball
fan. And he was running for president, and at the time LeBron was in Ohio, and that was like, an important swing state, and he's like the face of Cleveland at that point. It was very cool.
So I have been told, and I plan to go to the library and do like 2 full days of going through it.
Yeah.
But I've been told there is part of an exhibit. There's a picture of a round table on immigration that Obama called where I attended, and this is one of the things, one of the stories that I like to tell. Because I was harshly critical of Obama. I was critical of him when he was running. I was supporting John McCain, who I adored. I supported Mitt Romney, and I was practically against everything Obama did, whether it was Cuba policy, immigration policy, and there were a lot of even Democrats who were very pissed off at Obama over immigration. They used to call him, it was Latino, it was, it was left-leaning Latinos, it was Latino Democrats who coined the term deporter-in-chief, which he was furious about. And there was incredible discontent. And he called a bunch of us into, the White House and had a roundtable meeting. And it was rough.
Really?
We told him, we were very critical of him. We were very upset. I couldn't say that I was disappointed because I had never supported him.
Right.
But I was furious. And he sat there. He sat there explaining, pushing back, but also listening. And then he ended up doing DACA, which, for the Dreamers. So the program for the Dreamers. But that is the kind of thing that Barack Obama did. Frankly, that's the kind of thing that George W. Bush did. I remember after Katrina, my friend, who's like my sister, Donna Brazil, we used to be colleagues on CNN. She tore him to shreds over the response in New Orleans. Donna's from New Orleans. George W. Bush called her into the White House and said, help me, work with me. And they ended up being forming an alliance and working together on the New Orleans recovery. And I remember Donna telling me that when her father died, one of the first letters, a beautiful letter she received was from George W. Bush. Can you imagine in any universe where Donald Trump would call in to the White House people who criticize him?
It's hard to imagine.
And who don't agree with his policy and take their opinion into consideration and say, okay, you're not on my same page, but let's work together on coming up with some solutions.
No,
I mean, the idea that he's got like staff members that go around leaving him love notes and telling him how wonderful he is and how their entire life revolve around him and how he means everything to them. It is the most dysfunctional thing I've ever seen for a grown-ass 80-year-old man to be who's president of the United States for the second time to be needing that level of constant, unwavering adulation and affirmation.
Here's what I'm going to say. I agree with everything you just said, but also I wouldn't mind it. I'm saying if the staff wants to send me some notes.
Never going to happen.
No. My family? Anybody?
Never going to happen.
No, I don't think so.
The day...
I have my fans.
The day... listen... Yeah. The day you get a love note from me or from Joy, we've been snatched by the body snatchers.
Yeah, good point. Speaking of Obama, what did you make of his quote from this podcast saying that he has a suite in President Trump's head? That was
I think he's got
good.
Like an entire building in there. It's like the
the library's up there.
Suite. It's you just can't help but notice that Donald Trump, anything he's talking about, he brings in Barack Hussein Obama, right? I mean, if he's talking about the reflecting pool, he somehow makes a comparison to Obama. If he's talking about Iran, he somehow makes a comparison to how bad Obama was. He's caused Obama's crowd size, Obama's this, Obama's that. I think part of the reason he went into Iran, part of the reason he went into Iran is because he was on a sugar high from Venezuela and thought he could quickly do a regime change there, which he didn't. But I also think because he thought he could do a better job crafting a deal and negotiating a deal with the Iranians than Barack Obama did. He's constantly comparing himself to him. Again, there is something there that's in his brain that's just not right, doesn't work right.
You mentioned Venezuela, and I saw your post about this. There's this tragic earthquake that happened there. Thankfully, the federal government is offering to help them here. But it's reported that at least 164 people have died.
It's going to be a lot more than that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot more than that. The destruction is massive. I was, I got a text yesterday. One of my best friends since second grade is Venezuelan, and her parents are in Venezuela, and as are so many of her relatives. And she said, my dad and my stepmother are okay. And I said, from what? What happened? She goes, earthquake in Venezuela. And then seconds later, there was a second one, magnitude 7.1. I hope
that's a huge number.
It's going to be terrible. It's going to be painful. I have seen, they are scratching at the rubble of collapsed buildings with their bare hands. I have seen so many images of little dogs being rescued and saved. But yeah, there was an earthquake when I was 1 year old in Nicaragua in 1972, right around Christmas time. It was the one that Roberto Clemente died when he was going, the pitcher from the Pittsburgh, not Steelers, what's it called?
Pirates.
Yeah. When he was going down to deliver aid.
Yeah.
And the other day, I found my baby book with my mom's handwriting, and in it, she's talking about my first birthday celebration, and she talks about so I think the earthquake was like December 25th or 23rd or something. My birthday's December 28th. And she talked about what a sad, sad year it was. And, and it destroyed Managua, the capital of Nicaragua. It's still parts of it destroyed. 54 years later. And I think, there's going to be parts of Venezuela and they just don't have the economy. So it's like, it's so heartbreaking because it's like, can't this country catch a break? Can't the beautiful country of Venezuela catch a break? I just saw that Jose Andres and World Central Kitchen are feeding people down there and growing the operations. So if people are looking for a way to help, that's a way to do it. And I'm sure there's going to be other legitimate organizations
hopefully we can
that
put
are
a link
helping.
in our
But I'll tell you something that worries
here.
me. Something that worries me. I saw yesterday and today a press conference by the supposed interim president of Venezuela, who is Maduro's vice president, right? And she was flanked by two other Maduro guys, two horrible, horrible Maduro guys, including Diosdado Cabello, who was the guy who was like who executed the Maduro orders and policies. He was the one that put people in jail, that tortured people, that killed dissidents, horrible, like he's the guy that, like, his name, just makes Venezuelans recoil in disgust and terror, Diosdado Cabello. And he was standing there. And, I am worried that this tragedy is somehow going to normalize and legitimize these horrible Maduro members. Because look, what Donald Trump did with Maduro is like when you get bitten by a tick and you remove the head but you leave the body in there. That's what he has done in Venezuela. But I am when I tell you I am heartbroken, I am just so incredibly sad. And at a moment when when Latin America is celebrating, it's the World Cup, people have lost their minds over this World Cup. I was just leaving. When I was coming here, the streets of New York are teeming with Ecuadorians all ready to go. People have
I'm really getting into
everywhere.
it too, and I'm not someone who cares about soccer.
So
generally.
I think I'm betting on Argentina to go the whole way because I just think Messi wants it that bad, and that guy's drive is really, you cannot be measured. You know the story with him?
Which story?
Messi had some sort of as a child was diagnosed with some sort of growth hormone deficiency.
I know a little bit about this. Yeah.
And so when he was like 12 or 13 years old, he moved to Barcelona because that football club, that soccer club, took a chance on him and they paid for his treatment. So he would have to shoot himself up with hormone shots daily. And, he's only 5'7", which is not very tall, and a lot, shorter than I think the most of these soccer players are. And so this kid he was driven even as a child to that level where he left his house, he left his country at that age and went through that treatment. So I do not discount Messi, even though he's 39 years old. But there's this mathematician who's predicted every winner of the World Cup for like in the last 3 cups. And he's saying, don't sleep on the Netherlands. He's saying it's the Netherlands. But when I flew home the other night, I ran into the Tartan Army. Those are the Scots, the Scottish fans.
Yep.
Okay, so there's like a bunch of these like, fluorescent white men with like painted faces, like Robert like Braveheart,
yeah,
and like kilts at the airport in Miami, and they have invaded the streets of Miami. They're in South Beach. I am so worried for them. I think, oh my God, these people are going to die. First, everywhere they go, they drink the place out of beer.
Yeah,
beer runs out wherever they go. So they are walking around Miami where it's 100 degrees and the sun could cook eggs on the sidewalk without shirts. They are translucent white.
And their legs are exposed.
Dehydrated from drinking nothing but beer. And they are wearing like heavy wool skirts.
They're having the time of their lives.
What could possibly go wrong?
They're having the time of their lives. This is great. Nothing better than sports.
And all my single girlfriends are like trying to find a Scotsman.
There you go.
They're all in love with the Scotsman. They're all in love with the Vikings, the Norwegians, the ones doing the Viking row.
All right, but you're going Argentina.
I'm going So I want to do.
You want to do Netherlands?
I want to do the Netherlands. Can I do 2?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to.
One of them will lose.
One of them will lose, but I want to do Argentina and the Netherlands.
All right.
How about you?
I will tell you. I will. No, I need.
Don't do that because that I feel too responsible if you win.
Well, but
if
then
you lose.
But if you win and I didn't get on board, I'm gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah,
mad.
but it gets the responsibility,
All
the
right.
guilt.
All
It
right.
just, I mean, you're building a pool in your house. You don't have money to be
No, that's true.
wasting.
True.
Your pool is more over time and over budget than the reflecting pool. Hopefully, it will be blue, not algae green.
I dive into the algae green right now if I could.
When is your pool going to be ready?
It remains to be seen. The original date was Memorial Day. It was a hard winter. Things got delayed. We're hoping for late July. We'll see what happens.
Are you using? Do you know
Mm-hmm.
the name of the reflecting pool contractor?
I've seen the guy. He looks like a Sopranos extra.
No, he looks. You know who
Yeah.
he looks like? The guy, the owner, who's like a Trump donor, a Trump crony. His name is something like Cafaro or something like that. JJ Cafaro or something. He looks like Gomez Adams before Ozempic. He
like the drawing of Gomez
yeah,
Adams,
but do you
not
know
Raul
do
Julia.
you know what the name of his company
I
is?
don't. What is it?
I'm not making this up. Go Google this.
Okay.
Green Water Solutions.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. Maybe he makes it green and then fixes it. All right. Before you go, you talked recently with Senator Raphael Warnock. I
Oh,
see his
my
book is
God.
sitting there.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you something. I love this book so much, and I want people to go read it. It's called The Crooked Places Made Straight, which is inspired by Isaiah, by a verse from Isaiah. And it actually was very meaningful to me to read this book, particularly after J.D. Vance's book, because one of the things that Raphael Warnock does, the senator, is call out these, self-righteous Christians who are executing and supporting policies that are anything but Christians when it comes to immigrants, when it comes to, LGBT, just the way you treat one another. But there's also so many wonderful stories, and he talks about. Chacha, am I boring you? She just yawned. You haven't yawned, and she yawned.
No, I'm alive today. We were talking about
This
gambling.
was. He talks about how he is the result of having been helped by government programs. He is one of 11 or 12 children. And it was because of programs like Head Start. It was because of programs. It was, federal programs that enabled him to go to college, to get through school. I mean, it's just, and he talks a lot about what the 250th anniversary means. So one of the things that people can do to celebrate the 250th anniversary is read this book. I'm finding, like I'm reading Hamilton.
Yeah.
Again, the book.
The Chernow book? Yeah.
Yes, I'm reading that book. And that's how I'm celebrating and thinking about
America 250.
America 250.
That's great. I love that. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today, Anna. As I mentioned, tomorrow we have a brand new great show with Adam Lambert, which is a performance you do not want to miss. And then we'll be taking a short break from Behind the Table for the 4th of July week. And we'll be back on July 6th with all new shows and all new tales of what we've done on our time off. Have a great holiday, and we'll see you then. Good?
Chacha, nos vamos.
Behind the Table is executive produced by Brian Tetta. Supervising producers are Nathan Getty and Summer Shake, with associate producer Emily Darcy and editor Brian Davis. Our director of publicity is Laurie Hogan, and our senior manager of production operation is Enza Dolcenini. From ABC Audio, Trevor Hastings serves as senior producer, with director of podcast programming Josh Cohan.